Well, kids, welcome to another episode of Rim Shots with Sean on the Rock Rage Radio Network, brought to you by Barstools
Oh,
and Bandtalk.
you got snow up there. Okay.
Yeah, we're trying this again. I have Aaron G Beebe, who is, I think he just said in the Lake Tahoe area of California. I want to read something here because this is the intro that I got. Aaron G. Beebe's story is one of invention, resilience, and an unrelenting belief that dreams are just steps away from reality. And without further ado, I read that a gentleman that found his way into the entertainment industry, but started in the food industry.
Yeah. So my background's kind of diverse. It's different. I was kind of like, I don't know what you'd call it, like a kind of like a messed up kid when I was young. And then I kind of worked through all that. A lot of people in the entertainment industry. And so that's kind of how I kind of fell into people in that whole, and then I started managing, met some talent agents and publicists that are in the industry or that have moved their way up now. And so I basically motored and networked through the whole industry. And then probably like 10, 13 years ago, 12 years ago, I inherited some money. I started Gonna Happen because of the issues I found back then with being able to create events, right? There's always this aspect of events. You need to be able to have big enough network to be able to make the event happen. So what I did was created a platform back then, which was ahead of its time. And then the business and developers, it didn't really work out. So I've had this big, long setback to be able to come back into the industry. And so that's kind of how, and now I've just basically been self-funding it very slowly, word marked it for all kinds of different events. And then, websites, and you got to and steps and never give up. And so after going through all the things that I've gone through, so how I started getting back into it was someone had taken my old Facebook. And so what I started doing is, because people would be like, we're like, oh, someone's reaching out to us and we don't, and it's not me. And so what I did was I started putting stories of how I knew them, how I met them, how we did events. So they knew, so they could refer back into their mind how they knew me. And then, so I started doing that. I started end up becoming top fans with different celebrities that I had met, their families, like Jessica Alba and different people, and combating what had gone on for all those years, and have slowly started building the brand back up and all the socials. And that's kind of how I've, there's other life things that have gone on, but that's how, for entertainment purposes, is how I got back into it. And so it was for me never to give up on the dream that you're doing. Music, whatever your passions are in life. And I've been one of the like 2 state residents, half Nevada and half in California my whole life. It's kind of it's like a Florida, where you have seasonal workers from, I've kind of got that international blood inside me. Yep. Where I want to like adventure and meet a lot of different people. And so anyway, so that's kind of what's been going on, how I kind of went through my how I got back into the industry. So
Your network, though, I mean, like, is you mentioned Jessica Alba. You've done some work for Paris Hilton. I saw in your info that you did some work for Kim Kardashian. I mean, you mentioned networking, so you have to be out there. You have to be hustling to make those type of contacts. Is that a fair statement?
yeah, so what the way that I met a lot of them was I would, was out partying, drinking. I got connected into with different publicists, liquor distributors, with talent agent Ted Mayer and a couple of other ones. And they just introduced me to people, and we'd go out and then we would just talk and have fun. And then I would start meeting these people, and then they would introduce me to more people. And then when you've worked for a Paris Hilton shoe line or an alcohol sponsor or helped, these types of people, sometimes I don't, the fan, goes away and you just become part of their friends. Like one of the reality stars that I helped who was on a rehab, I became her friend. When the reality people and the models and stuff, their careers are really up and down. And so when they've gone through life struggles, I've just become a normal friend to them. You know what I mean? And so over time, that's how I've, I can't there's not like a playbook to how to do it. It's just one of those natural talents that I've gained through just partying, trying to be good to other people, and just be there as a real friend instead of looking at them as an icon of some sort. You know what I mean? And not try to always play off of them or worry about if someone's going to have the contact or those types of things. It was just, for me, it was more like an inner passion to go out and meet people. And I've always been that type of person who's like traveled around. So I've lived here and lived there and lived here's place. And so that's why, and I've just built up these contacts over the years, and built a solid network of people that are in there. And then when I took a step back out of the industry because of some just life setbacks, then all those contacts are still there. And so, but now they're ahead, their careers are way more advanced from now. But it's been really cool to actually watch the progression. If, when you've seen an artist where they first start out, they're playing in a cafe, and then all of a sudden they're on a stage, and then they're on a bigger stage. Like that to me, being in the industry, that's one of the greatest gifts to be able to see that, if that makes sense.
It does.
When
And
you're on a different side of it, you know what I mean?
I do.
When you're not in a
I do.
rock band.
I do 100%. We're here with Rim Shots with Sean. We're here with Aaron G Beebe. I think we get our connection issues settled. But one of the things I so relate to you, my friend, because where you talked about you get out of the fan space, because I've had the opportunity to talk to people in my own hometown. I've had the opportunity to talk to legendary A-listers, and you get out of the fan space very quickly when you're having a conversation. You have to, right? Because if you come across as too much of a fan, you're not going to get much done.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I've just naturally have learned, where I've met, through different people, through different connections within the industry, that, here's their family, maybe I meet their cousin or something. And all of a sudden, I've been their cousin's friend for, a while. And then they're like, oh yeah. Then they just, all of a sudden you're hanging out with their celebrity friend, and then you become friends with them. And now you're in their whole circle. And the industry really isn't as big as people. Once you're in there and you're kind of in that whole network, everybody knows each other. You know what I mean? And everybody loves a comeback story, especially rock people. You know what I mean? I've been watching so many. This old rocker I know named Jimbo. He had brain surgery and brain cancer, and now he's back sitting at a cafe doing songs. You know what I mean? And he was one of those people that was always open to, hey, meet this person. You know, he's friends with the Riot Stitch people and all that stuff, and he's helped me, you know, do small events and stuff. One of our mutual friends is a guy named Con Dwight. He does stuff with like Bonnaroo. So I've always been in that festival circuit where you go and you know, you're in a family. When you're in a festival and you're going all the time and you're there, you know, and they're camping out, you know, I've done a lot of reggae festivals. And so it's like a family. It's one that you will always, you almost kind of keep in entertainment, and you just stay in this festival. And that's kind of, you know, when you've done, you know, 20, I haven't seen them maybe in 6 months, but then you're like back to, anyway, I mean, you know.
I 100% do. And I mean,
I don't know.
I think we're having some internet problems again. However, I get where you're coming, and you said back there, everybody loves a comeback, because everybody does love a comeback, right? And
yeah, it's great.
So, I mean, in terms of you and your comeback, I mean, what are as a podcast host, this isn't something that I ever aspired to do. I just stumbled into it. You're coming back. You're getting back into it. What are some of the goals that you have that you want to, I guess, start to pick off?
So with the website, so I started the Gonna Happen, and there's different, I have different websites. One is a WordPress and one is a Drupal, and Drupal is more of a database. And so one of the things that I've noticed where in the industry where people have an issue is they don't always have the contact base. You can you have a million followers, but how many of those people are you actually going to talk to? There's so many things going on there. So what I did was took an old project that was failed and recreated it. And so we put it in a database where there's festivals that you can look up, lawyers, labels, talent agents, all the necessities that you would need in a networking situation. And we only finished it like maybe 3 weeks ago. And so we're in the process of SEO doing with it. You know, I'll be adding, adjusting the clothing line. I'm going to do some like art type of things for different genres. On my comeback story, I'm going to basically take some of my old stories and create it into a book, you know, and then see where it goes from there, and, you know, see what other collaborations and things come back. And I'm hoping that I will eventually be able to collaborate with some people. It's good for like the starter to mid-level career person in the industry, until you find that right person at the high level that believes in it. But that takes time to get there. And so I've managed artists. I managed an artist named Autumn Sky, who's a singer-songwriter, won the Sammys in Sacramento a bunch of times. And so what's gone on is, that's, for me, seeing a person that is that into music or the industry and helping them along is something that is just in my roots. And so, and if you're that passionate about the industry, I think you should stick with it, even if life throws you a curveball of 2 or 3 or 10, like it has me. If you keep at it, eventually someone at a higher level or as you go up will see that. And so I have other, my godson is Baby Bash's first cousin. So I've sat there where I've been in their entourage, back in the day where you got 3 or 4 or 5 cars or SUVs going to an event. Or, I grew up around Tesla and stuff, and going and watching, rock, all the 80s rock as a kid. And so for me, there's just a passion and that goes along with that. And so career wise, I want to do more podcasts, probably get some articles out there, just keep plugging along with what I'm doing and start helping real passionate artists, music vault types, even international, people are different. People are, people are, there's a need there for, in some international countries where if, and that's why I collaborated with the Colombian MMA guy. I had a background in martial arts, kind of because I was kind of, I don't know, we'd call it bullied as a kid, maybe. And so when I noticed that I had family that's from Puerto Rico and that they were changing what was going on in their country, I had met an MMA guy a long time ago, and we had reconnected. And basically, so what I did was, as he's gone on his way up, and being from Vegas and Nevada most half my life, I decided to sponsor him and to do an event to help his community, because they didn't do that back then. It's been like taboo all these years because of, the 80s, I guess. And now they've started changing things and all those different, in the same stuff, that maybe, in other countries, it's the same thing. But when we started discussing his background over the years and what had happened after I had met him, and it was the same type of story, the fighting story that you want to see with someone in the industry. And so we did some press on him and stuff. And so that's kind of, started it off.
If you don't mind, and if you don't, if you're not comfortable answering, by all means, but what was maybe something that I guess got you out of the business, or you just decided you had, had enough and you needed to take a break? Because I did the exact same thing. I quit music for 6 years, just purely out of frustration. Got back into it. But what are maybe some of the reasons why you chose to take a step back?
Well, part of it was frustration. Just the setback of financially from putting all my energy. If you ever had one of those passion projects where you put all your money and all your resources and all your heart into it, and it just failed miserably. Well, that crushed me so bad inside that it was like I had to fix it. And so over time, I'll start, I don't want to go into it too much, but basically that's one of the reasons it had crushed me so much inside that it basically took the life away from me, because I had lost so much and I'd put so much energy in it. It just failed. And it's one of those things when you have to step back, kind of learn from it, see what types of things go on, why it failed, kind of grow from it. And that's, basically, and I didn't want to give up. And so I had to, because it had my soul so bad. And I think that happens to talent. And so So that's basically why, because of just the sheer, so much effort for all those years, and then nothing happened for you. You know what I mean? Because when I see it, like if you're older and you're a rocker and you're out playing and you're still getting paid a little bit, but you're still out there playing for people as a performer, then you're probably doing pretty good. You know what I mean? As an injury industry, because to get at that top tier, it's really hard. It's a real luck. It's knowing the right people. Do you have the right look, the right sound? Do you have the right contacts? It's so hard to get at that, top 10, top 20%, that if you can get it to where you're doing okay and you're loving what you're doing, I think that you're doing good in the industry. We all want to be at that top level, but that's really why I got out of it, was because I had such a setback in my heart and my soul. A lot of times it's drug related for people, but for me, it was just a crushing blow to my whole life, because I had put so many hours, so many years into it. And when I couldn't keep the momentum going and I'd start losing everything, it just crushed me inside. And so I just chose, over the last several years to just come back from it all. And because I guess I had grown enough inside to be able to do that. And that's really the reason why I got out of it. And that's where I took that old project of something that was my passion, and I'm not a millionaire, you know what I mean? So I have to, like most artists and people in the industry. And so what I did was, how can I take something from nothing and start building from nothing to something, and something to something bigger? And so I took my passion and I learned from it, and all the changes that have gone on with the industry, right? With the online stuff and there's been some industry changers that have adjusted it, back then. And probably when you were really out there rocking, and that wasn't there. So you have a really diverse network to be able to do. Now you can do it live and online. So if you don't have enough followers and this and that, so I took what I tried to do, has been taking where someone had taken my website or my social media and slowly started building from there. And then, this is like the first podcast from when I've started to recreate. So I want to keep moving it up, because I genuinely want to help and have people who have had this type of setbacks in their life, have another opportunity to create something. With the website and database and different things, it takes time. So you just have to weather the storm. And that's kind of how the industry is. You get run through the ringer so hard. And I'm sure, I don't know where, if you started yours in New York or LA, but if you haven't pounded the pavements for real in New York or in LA, from the street level to networking and getting through and hanging out with the rockers, and then getting into the whiskey, and then doing all those things, and running and gunning, and with video cameras, trying to do things back like it was. And it's different. So now the industry's adjusted a little bit, and I think people at all levels can create something really cool with their life from setbacks from like that. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know if that, hopefully that explains to you.
It does. And I'm seeing now why Raquel wanted you and I to meet, because I'm a COVID project. I was a musician that was playing. I never wanted to do a podcast. I just happened to do a podcast. I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, which is far away from you as possibly can be.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I lived in Toronto for a number of years. I toured the United States. I toured across Canada, but you know, again, my whole stick until about 2.5 years ago was, oh, you know what, this is just a fun little project. And as soon as everything opens up, I'll be on to what I really want to do. But I started getting, the next person and the next person and the next. Then I got Raquel sending me wonderful folks like you and a bunch of other people, and that's kind of how it happened. And so, one of the things that you mentioned that I really like, a friend of mine equates it to playing golf, where why shoot for par, shoot for one over. And if you get one over, then you don't feel
Yeah.
bad, and you can keep kind of building from there.
Yeah, totally.